Okay, so this video will contain leaks for the up-and-coming, House of the Dragon episode, but that's going to be in the latter half of this video. So skip to maybe 7 minutes past this. I'll try to timestamp it down below in the comments just for anybody who wants to, not potentially learn about some lore and some backstory. But everybody else who wants the leaks and the lore, here we go. All right, so there is this little freehold known as the Valyrian freehold. And if you're unaware, they are the nation where these dragon-riding and white-haired individuals come from, right? So, okay, let's go further back, right? So technically, according to Ashai, which is the one place in all of Planetos where the Maester's learning fails them greatly, because, well, Ashai is just so old and so ancient that there's not really, much the Maesters can do to sort of get information from there safely, right? So Ashai itself is packed away on the far corner of the map, like just above Ulthos, which is like basically an undiscovered continent, kind of, right? As a bit of a backstory for Ashai, if you're unaware, basically they have a bunch of gold and silver in Ashai, but not food. And all the animals that are taken there die shortly after. There's like this sort of like fumes that come off the water. It's like related to some sort of magical cataclysmic event that happened there, right? So, but anyway, animals are far more susceptible to it than humans. So any animals that are brought there through trade die, right? So they rely on trade to eat, right? There's some shadow binders who eat the fish in the river, but I'm just kind of giving you a backstory on why this place is so mysterious, right? So the people that do go there to trade, the gold that they end up getting for the goods that they, would trade, obviously food, right, is the most important thing for the people of Ashai, because they obviously, like I said, nothing grows there, and all the animals die that are brought there, and obviously there's no animals there, and then the fish that live in the river are queer, and they've got like 3 eyes, and really no one wants to eat them except for the Shadowbinders. So when the travelers go to Ashai and trade for their gold and silver, supposedly the gold and silver from Ashai is poisoned. So all that aside, apparently, there's an unknown race of people. They're so ancient, the name is lost to history, rather. But this is according to the Annals of Ashai. This is part of the very little information that has come out of Ashai, that has gone to the Maesters, that was written down in A World of Ice and Fire for us to read, right? It's a really, really, really good book. And anybody who doesn't think that the 10,000 Ships and the Nymeria show would make for a good show will just read, like, the first, 15 to 20 pages of World of Ice and Fire and get to know the Doom of Valyria, right? And then, obviously, the fight with the Raenor that happens that leads Nymeria and her 10,000 ships down to Dorne. But anyway, getting way back on track here, this unknown race of people supposedly taught the ancient Valyrians how to tame dragons. Valyrians are quoted as saying the dragons that we control are of our blood, and that's key, because technically, a lot of people think that the dragons, the small-minded folks in Westeros and in Essos think that dragons sort of came out of the 14 Flames, and the Valyrians are, the first race of people to tame them. That's not actually the case. The more learned individuals like Tyrion and a lot of the Maesters, obviously the Maesters are the ones who are giving us this information, realize that dragons had to be around since before the 14 Flames and since before the Valyrian Freehold, because there are dragon bones as north as Ib. And okay, so I pulled out my Maps of Westeros book. Right? Maps of Westeros. Sorry, the Layers of Ice and Fire. I'd call it Maps of Westeros. Alright, so here's Westeros. Right? What I'm talking about right here. It's Westeros. All the way over here is Ib. And then also there's dragon bones over in Westeros. And there's like, certain types of Valyrian architecture that was used creating through dragons, right? And they're fire mages that would be able to twist stone like it was liquid. That dragons were used in forming things that are way older than Valyria itself. So dragons have been around for a while. This unknown race of people whose name is lost to history probably had dragons and did conquer the world. And it's mentioned in Ice and Fire that if these individuals did have dragons, why didn't they use them to conquer the world? Well, since we don't know the name of these people, we probably don't know that they at one point did conquer the entire world. That's why there's so many similarities all across the world of Ice and Fire. And just as a side note, there's 2 characters in the main show and then several characters from the books that may potentially be from there, right? But also several characters who have been there. On this main show, House of the Dragon, right? On the, well, not the main show, the prequel to the main show, right? Corlys has been there. And then also, we have Quaithe. She's from Ashai. And then most importantly, Melisahar. she's from a Shy as well. She's known as Melanie as Lot 7 when we get her POV in the Dance with Dragons, and she relates back to this memory of her first being sold in a Shy, right, when she becomes a Shadowbinder. And then also another thing of note is that potentially Melisandre could be Alice Rivers for this show as well. Like, I don't necessarily like the theory. It would work more so well in the books because that's just how things go. Is like theories, things are more ominous in the books. But if they do make Melisandre Alice Rivers in this TV show, that'd be an interesting link because she's definitely old enough to be alive during then. For instance, right, so you have the drowned god that the Iron Men worship, right? So the Ironborn, Theon Greyjoy, Euron Greyjoy, Balon Greyjoy, right? My personal favorite, Victarion Greyjoy, right? They all worship this drowned god creature, right? So when Aegon the Conqueror came over to Westeros and tried to get the Faith of the Seven to be worshipped on the, the Ironborn men, or rather not when... I'm sorry, not when Aegon the Conqueror came over, but when the Andals came over, after the First Men came over and had that war with the Children of the Forest and the Giants and nearly wiped them out, but they weren't able to successfully do it, so they ended up combining together, and a lot of the First Men have blood of the Children of the Forest, which are why they are wargs and greenseers. Remember, every single one of Ned Stark's children are wargs in the books. Sansa's ability isn't really developed, but all that besides the point. The Ironborn worship the Drowned God, who is known to... like once you die, you go and feast in his watery halls. And there's also the Rhoynar, who I just mentioned, and they worship this river goddess. Basically, the Rhoynar itself is supposed to be this water spirit that all of these Rhoynar people who live off of the river worship. So these seafaring individuals, they're across hundreds of thousands of miles away from each other. They all worship a similar god, and it's known as like the Drowned God or the Old Ones, right? So there's several different people in Westeros. In particular, the Celtigars of Crackcall Point, before they came and claimed that place, there were these people known as the Deep Ones, or the Squishers, and they basically would have fish-like features and rows of sharp teeth, and they would come away and kill the boys and steal the women to mate with, right? So basically, in George's world, every single race of people that have unique features or unique abilities descended from some sort of primordial creature, right? So the ancient Valyrians literally probably mated with the ancient race of people, bringing this all the way back around. And I'm very, very sorry, but I have extreme ADHD. But at least the information that I'm telling you is factual, and I'm hopefully delivering it in a fun way, right? Oh yeah, speaking of which, we're 6 minutes into this video. Please slap a like on it. The like goal is going to be 420. And then also make sure you're subscribed. This is really, really important because I'm super close to reaching 100,000 here on YouTube. And once I reach 100,000, my videos will most likely no longer be shadow banned because you can get verified when you reach 100,000. And then most importantly, I get to talk to an actual individual. So YouTube and HBO have been demonetizing and copyright striking my videos. But once you reach 100,000, it's kind of easier to get help to solve all that. So please, if you enjoy my content, go ahead and subscribe and help me fight this shadow ban. All right, so bringing this all the way, like I said, back around to the Valyrians, right? The Valyrians probably mated with that unknown race of people who are just really old and, their name is forgotten in history. They were probably just half dragon. There's actual scaled and green men in the world of Westeros that literally are more dragon than the Targaryens, right? So one thing of note here, super sidetrack, Maesters specifically state that the Targaryens may not necessarily be that special, even though they have different shades of purple eyes and then silver, like golden, beautiful, precious metal hair, right? The Maester said that you can get similar traits if you breed only certain types of animals. So that's probably what happens with the Valyrians and their features, right? So the initial ones probably mated with these dragon-type creatures. But all of that aside, let's talk about what actually happened with the Doom of Valyria. So in my opinion, just to sort of summarize my crazy chaotic thoughts, right? The Valyrians mated with that unknown race of people who had originally conquered dragons in the world of Westeros and Planetos, and it's just been too long, and their name is forgotten in history, but the Valyrians, right, the initial Valyrians, before the Freehold was formed, the Valyrians were sort of shepherds, right? They were taught how to master and train these dragons because they literally mated with these dragon-like creatures. And then also on the House of the Dragon show, we see actual snakes involved in sexual acts with the Valyrians. So this is kind of confirmed through the TV show, right? right? So that's how they made it. That's how they tamed dragons. But what caused the doom, might you ask? Well, we can look at modern day Westeros for that. Like in Fire and Blood, they give us 3 different examples of what caused it. It's probably a combination of all of them, right? So the ancient dragon lords, the Valyrian families that could ride dragons, so not the Celtigars and most certainly not the Velaryons, right? So the Velaryons and the Celtigars were over in Westeros actually before the Targaryens got over there. Like Valyria formed the Dragonstone as its furthest outpost, and the Celtigars and the Velaryons were over there before the Targaryens. But because the Targaryens and the Valyrians, right? The Valyrians is the race of people that the Celtigars, the Targaryens, and the Velaryons are, right? The Valyrians would allow trade to flow across the narrow sea. So the Celtigars and the Velaryons actually got rich as fuck off of that trade because they'd be able to fill their coffers off of, you know, the trade that would flow from Westeros to Essos, right? But getting back on track here, they would have, you know, rivalries, right? So, you know, you have one family who rides dragons, you have another family who rides dragons, and then you have a third family who rides dragons, and they're fighting for wars, right? So the Valyrian freehold is called a freehold because any man or woman who held land in Valyria would have a say-so. So you didn't necessarily need to ride dragons to have a say-so in the Valyrian freehold. You just need to own land, right? So that's kind of besides the point. But what they would do is they would play games similar to the lords in Westeros. They would backstab, they would connive, they would cheat, and they would deceit, and they would, you know, just basically they self-manifested their own doom. In particular, in A World of Ice and Fire, it's mentioned that the Valyrian dragon-riding families had all of the key mages, that the fire mages who we hear about in House of the Dragon. Remember, Viserys tells Alicent that the fire mages had their house close to the actual volcanoes in Valyria because they would control the fire and the flames, right? So we saw that in this model city. But anyway, the Valyrian dragon-riding families had certain key mages that knew all of the histories and all the spells and all of the ritual sacrifices in order to keep the 14 flames at bay, right? The Valyrian families had them assassinated. Literally, they had them killed, so they were unable to continue the rituals. And then also, you got to realize that the Valyrian freehold had been causing war with the surrounding communities and, like, literally everyone near them, right? Unless they were a part of the Valyrian freehold, the Valyrians cast war on them. So when you realize that, they probably had some manipulation and intermingling, and they literally just caused their own doom. But one of the things that I think is really interesting is that it's specifically noted that the fire mages had to retain the sacrifices, right? And then also in Fire and Blood, it said that so many people perished in the canals in the 14 Flames mining gold and silver for the Valyrian freehold that it's immeasurable. Like, it's an unknown amount of people. You can't even fathom how many people died in those mines. So obviously they died from working, but also you got to realize that the 14 Flames itself might have been some sort of a primordial magic creature that needed blood to stay alive. Like fire consumes, and it's just ever consuming. And those Valyrian slaves that would either be close to death or hadn't been killed by the Faceless Men. And I actually talked about how the Faceless Men were caused by the Valyrian freehold. Basically, they would have a bunch of slaves that would be suffering in those 14 Flames, and the Valyrians obviously wouldn't kill them. So one dude, the first Faceless Man, went around and would give the gift of death to those Valyrian slaves who wanted nothing but to die, right? So they would probably, the Valyrians themselves and the wizards would probably sacrifice certain dragon lords and houses, and maybe that's how they got certain made certain enemies, and how the fire mages themselves got assassinated by certain Valyrian dragon lords. But all that aside, this is what's caused the doom. If you like this little rant and tangent, let me know down below in the comment section. Now let's jump into the leaks. Okay, so House of the Dragon episode 7 is going to be called Driftmark, right? It's going to be directed by Miguel Sapochnik, who was originally the showrunner for the first season, but has stepped down to executive producer role for season 2, which doesn't mean that he's going to be hands-on. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of just like a credit, right? But he's definitely still going to maybe occasionally drop by and direct a few episodes. I hope he's going to go work on the Jon Snow show. But anyway, all that's besides the point. We got a couple more new images. I did break down the original images they released from the episode, and I'm not really going to break them down in this video. I'm just showing them to you right now. But some of the leaks that I was sent through the DMs, speaking of which, they were sent to me over on Twitter and on Instagram. But on Twitter, please go follow me. I'm really close to 3,000 followers on Twitter, and that's fucking awesome because I've had a Twitter account for a long time, and I do these incessant rants where I'm reading and I'm listening to a Song of Ice and Fire, so I'll just tweet something that I find interesting, right? But over there, I'm Sir_Hunts, and then on Instagram, I'm Sir_Hunts_review. So go follow me on both of those platforms, please. Help me increase my social media presence. I post there frequently, usually something funny or something, you know, insight or personal in my life. But anyway, the leaks, they were sent to me through the DMs on both of those platforms. The first one, Laenor and Carl will actually fake their death and live happily ever after. Now that's gotten kind of way more traction, obviously, since the episode is coming up. But that was something that was sent to me last summer when they were filming. And the main reason I think the person who sent that to me is probably a load of bullshit. Most of these leaks are a load of bullshit, and it's obviously going to be confirmed tomorrow, literally. Depending on when you're watching this video, it's going to be either already denied or confirmed or whatever, right? But that was just, it was probably all related to this scene of Laenor filming out in the middle of the ocean with Carl Corey, and they're in a boat that is definitely from Westeros. And, like, you know, supposedly Carl pretends to kill Laenor, but they use, you know, body doubles kind of thing. And then, like, you know, maybe Laenor and Carl Corey are actually, like, on their way to go escape to live happily ever across the narrow sea, but then Carl Corey kills Laenor out at sea and pushes his body into the ocean. In my opinion, that could very well happen. And another thing that was sent to me, another leak, was that supposedly Daemon tries to save Laenor, right? So there's rumors that Daemon killed Laenor to remove him as a, you know, obviously so he could marry Rhaenyra, right? But supposedly there's a twist, and Daemon will actually try to save Laenor from Carl Corey, but fails, and Daemon is injured in the process. And then another leak, and you all let me know what you think about these down below in the comment section. And another leak was that supposedly Daemon just does actually kill Laenor. Like, we see him choking out the dude who is probably Laenor's new favorite, who makes Carl Corey jealous. So Carl Corey and Rhaenyra have been on Dragonstone for a while, and Laenor is kind of a whore, so he likes different, you know, boys, and one of them makes Carl Corey jealous, and that's why Carl Corey kills Laenor, supposedly being paid by Daemon, right? So maybe, you know, that actually happens where Daemon kills Laenor, right? And then another one, and this is my personal favorite. Supposedly that Laenor dies falling from his dragon, and he drowns to death. Like, the person mentioned that there was a fight, like there is in the trailer, like we've seen, between Carl Corey and Laenor, and Laenor survives the initial encounter, and Carl tries to escape thinking that Laenor's dead, but Laenor hops on his dragon Sea Smoke and goes to chase after Carl Corey, and then, like, he suffers from blood loss and then just sort of falls off his dragon and dies at sea, right? And then Carl Corey is later caught and then killed. But I don't know. That seems like a really, really interesting possibility. It would give Laenor like a sort of a badass last moment kind of scene if he's bleeds out and just falls to death at sea. It's not really in House of the Dragon and in Game of Thrones theme to have people, regardless of whoever they are, ride off into the sunset. That just doesn't happen. Like, they didn't do that for Jon Snow and Daenerys. They certainly won't do that for minor characters like Laenor and Carl Corey. It is possible, though. You know, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. And then the last couple of leaks that I want to talk about, this is not necessarily related to Laenor. It's Lucerys is going to get pushed into poop. That supposedly is a thing. It's like actual poop, and the little actor who's playing him gets actual feces in his mouth. And then another leak, and this one is just insane. There's no way it's true, and this was just sent to me yesterday. Someone says that supposedly Aemond does not ride Vhagar, right? So Vhagar is, and we've seen from the leaks that's just not true, right? But it's just really fun to mention. But supposedly, Aemond will eventually ride Vhagar, but Baela rides Vhagar first, and then Baela is killed, and then Aemond takes Vhagar from Baela. Like, basically, Vhagar rejects Baela, and she falls off the dragon. And if, like, supposedly there's supposed to be 2 people falling off dragons in this episode, that's just not going to happen. There's saddles. Everybody has saddles. All right, well, this is a good point to wrap this video up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please do me a massive favor and slap a like on this video. Like goal is going to be 420, and then most important thing you could do, if you've already subscribed and turned your notifications on, consider checking out my Patreon. Over there, I have exclusive Patreon content only. I'm in the process of recording a new podcast that's full in depth about the Doom of Valyria, and I kind of just teased it in this video. So go subscribe over there. You can join for as little as $1, and different tiers offer different rewards. I want to thank every single member of my Patreon family, and thank you for watching. And if you're wondering, that literally means a dragon is not a slave.